it's much more. We're going to change your format. We're
That's true.
We're going to have a talk show.
On the mic with Mike, ESPN Richmond, the best business radio program around. I'm your host, Mike King. We are coming to you live today from the Common House, which is 303 West Broad. It is the premier business radio. Oh, no, it's the premier co-working space in the area. Here, co-working and social club. Well, ESPN Richmond 106.1 is where you can find me on the mic with Mike daily from 5 to 7 a.m. It is part of the Mike King Biz Radio Network, which is Mike King on The Choice 105.3 as well. We are there from 2 to 3 every day. That is 105.3. Today, we're joined by Carrie Roth. She is a staple around town here. You have been immersed in the business community forever. So welcome to the program, ma'am.
Thanks, Mike. It's great to be here with you.
It has been, I said to you, it's been a while since I've seen you. And you said, it's been a while since we've seen anybody. All right, what you been up to? We're going to talk about some history. We're going to talk about some business stuff. We're going to talk about being one of in a big family as well, and being a creative person. Because people who are not creative, we got problems with my son is a creative, and that was calligraphy, dance, art, you name it. It's always something there. So
yeah,
let us know who Carrie is.
Great. Well, thanks, Mike. I know it's a pleasure to get to see you back. And, over the last 74 weeks of the Great Disruption is what I call it. I think we've all had the opportunity to kind of take a assessment of the world and what we want to do and who we want to be in the next phase of what's going on. And so I decided in end of December and coming back in January that I was going to disrupt myself.
Okay.
And had been with Activation Capital and built that brand in that organization up for the previous 7 years, and really felt like it was time for me to take a step back and create space for my own personal and professional growth.
So give our listeners an idea of what Activation Capital is, because a lot of people hear the name. They know it's sort of like, it's not an incubator, but give our listeners an idea of what it is, because you were at the forefront of seeing a lot of the cool things happening in Richmond. A lot of the things that are manifesting now, you were talking about them years ago that they were going to happen, and now they've come true. So let our listeners know about Activation Capital.
Yeah. So Mike, many people know the Virginia Biotech Park. It's located adjacent to the MCV campus. And it was a life sciences advanced technology campus, from very small companies all the way up to very advanced companies. But what we found was that we were just very insulated and very focused on real estate instead of what we needed to focus on. And that was the activity going on inside. And how do we really promote and flourish not just that space, but in our entire innovation entrepreneurial ecosystem. And so we flipped the paradigm on the head and we said, let's focus on the entrepreneur and put the entrepreneur at the center. And then let's build out our economy, our advanced technology economy. Life sciences is a key component of it,
Okay.
but it's not the only component of it. And then we rebranded around Activation Capital. So you need a lot of capital, different types of capital, whether it's human capital, social capital, green capital. You need all of this. And at the point of activation energy, everything becomes easier. And so we got Activation Capital to try to help de-risk for all of those who want to jump in as entrepreneurs, their pathway to success. And pathway to success can mean two different things, like you tried something and it didn't work, so you tried something else, or you were able to scale your company. And scaling high-tech companies, and why it's so important to focus on that, is because they can change a community. That's how quickly we can scale that and give opportunity to a large number of people and change human outcomes at the same time with those types of companies.
So when people look at scalable companies, you're saying, the regular, most of the businesses, mom and pop, whatever the type business is, they're scalable because this is what the entrepreneur does. It may change the lives of a few people. You're talking about things that change communities and can change the world.
Correct. Yep. Absolutely.
And so there's a bunch of people who are in that space and very few make it, but all it takes is the one.
Yeah.
Because we go from a time where if we would be hard pressed to ask people who Zoom was pre-pandemic. And when you look at that, how does all of the others who are standing, whether it's Skype, FaceTime, all of those are standing and are known brands. And here, Zoom has become the de facto champion.
Yeah.
So when you're doing something like that, how does Richmond become a hotbed of that type of activity? Because you were kind of like, when I came here in 2014, you were like the Pied Piper of all those things. People kind of like didn't know what Activation Capital did, but you always had your hand in the really big things.
Yeah. Well, I think the most important thing for me is that I always put the mission first, right? What is the mission and the purpose, and who are we trying to help first? And then it doesn't matter who gets the credit for it, because we need a lot of people to jump in, and it takes a lot of people with a lot of energy to make all of this happen. And so you just start trying things, and like, here's a problem and let's solve it. And then find the next problem and let's solve it. And then you build those things up so we have more capacity. And at the end of the day, we wanted people to feel that Richmond and our region is the best place to start a business. We have an incredibly diverse economy here. So if you want to try something out, Richmond is a really good place. And in particular, we have several hundred years of products of where people try things out, like the first craft beer. It was tried out here in marketplace, and then you can go and scale it. But now, in particular now, I think, Mike, one of the big differences we've seen in the last year and a half is everybody wants you to be purpose driven, right? What is your why? And so
that's
you
a big
really
question.
know your why, and that's really, really important. And so even if you were a company that you did X, Y, and Z for 100 years, how are you relevant to today's economy, and how do you position yourself for today's economy?
Does the why have to be real? Because sometimes funding is tied to your why.
Yeah.
Do companies just create the why because it sounds good, or sometimes is it really in their DNA of who they are?
I think it depends on where you are. And I think in our region, which is a little averse to risk, your why has to be authentic.
Okay. So the why has to be.
Yeah. You've got other places in the country.
It's more money driven.
Yes.
And results.
Yeah.
Here, it's when I always joke and say, coming from up north, I don't need to know your family DNA, your mama and grandmama, and all the things that go. If you can deliver on the day that you say, your family history doesn't play a big part. When you come south, a lot of that plays a part in what you're doing and the success. So I could see how the why is a big part of that. So you're at Activation Capital, you're changing the world. Were you always an entrepreneur at heart? And what made you think about, okay, you know what, now the world has changed. The world has been put on timeout. Let me go out there and start my own thing.
Yeah. So I've always been a problem solver and a builder.
Okay.
And how I do that in the different seats that I've sat in but that's what I love and what my passion is. And so I did have a previous company. 16 years ago, I started my own company. And then I went to the governor's office to help figure out how to support other people when I was Deputy Secretary of Commerce and Trade, how to help and support our entrepreneurial and innovation environment, and how to continue to make Virginia the best place for people to compete and succeed and be able to prosper. And I think that's what it really drives me, is I really want to make sure whatever our seat is, that we're creating that opportunity for people to compete and succeed. And so then, and I just decided, that this is time to go back in and really focus on how do I, as an individual, create that space to help solve problems for others.
All righty, now's the time. On the mic, ESPN Richmond, that's where we are. Mike King, Carrie Roth is here with us as well. You can catch us every day, 5 to 7 a.m. on ESPN Richmond. I'd like to thank our show sponsors, Tom Childry, the credit card guy. If you have credit card merchant issues, Tom Childry is the man. He is a business advocate. Also, Andy Taylor and Junk Luggers. If you have things around the house and you need to remove, Andy Taylor and Junk Luggers can help. Now, that's everything from a bike to an entire house. He cannot help you if you have people around the house that you want gone. No. So, I always say, stop cooking, stop giving out gas money, and maybe change the internet password. Maybe that might help. But Andy Taylor and Junk Luggers, they're eco-friendly. They have lime green trucks. They also fix up things that are donated, and they're things that they pick up and they donate them to their the remix market out in Ashland. And then what they do is they sell it and give the money to charities. But he can't help you with the people problem. So Andy Taylor and Junk Luggers, as well as Rob White over at Fast Signs, they help us talk to game changers every day. So let's talk about your new company, what you're doing, and how it impacts the community.
Yeah, so Rerouted is the name of my company, and I came up the name as we were being rerouted off of 95 coming home from the beach.
You just got that
over
name.
New Year. Yeah, so I really felt like we need to help always make sure that you're on the most efficient pathway to get to success. And so the pace of change right now is accelerating so tremendously, and we all feel it. Before it used to be 15 years, then it was 10 years and 5 years, and now it's just this constant change. So how do you look at your business and your opportunity holistically? Who are your stakeholders? Where do you want to go? And what are the obstacles in the way? And how do we ease that pathway to get you there quicker and really position yourself, as we were talking about before, for the economy of today?
And I always ask people, what are the streets saying? What are the streets saying about the tempo of business? What's happening? The mood now going into the end of 2021 into 2022 for the business owner?
Yeah, it really depends on what business you're in, because some folks really accelerated over the last 18 months, especially our ed tech companies we have around here, like Trilogy Mentors, really been very successful for that. Blue Ocean Brain, another company that's really accelerated with their human resources and their brain skills and helping to train folks to have that space to think while you're at work, and reduce that exhaustion. And they've done incredibly well. I think as we're sitting here in Common House, obviously, hospitality and tourism, and which is our number 3 industry in Virginia, has been a challenge. But what I love about the people in our area and in the Commonwealth is we're resilient and we're creative and we're going to figure things out.
Gotcha. Mike King, Carrie Roth is here with us. So how can people find Rerouted, and what can you offer to the business owner to help them? We're the type. So ma'am, you launched a business in the pandemic. There you go. Thumbs up, But when you look at it, if there's ever a time to launch, the lines are blurry. There's pathways to success. And a lot of times now people are open to ideas that we may not have been before, because we just didn't do it that way.
Right.
If we were on a Zoom call, whatever it was called before, and it froze up, we thought the world ended. Now we're like, all right, well, Bill's frozen. Bill will be back. And Bill comes back 30 seconds later. It's like, all right, hey, Bill, welcome back.
Yeah.
And we've learned how to overcome that. So let's talk about Rerouted. This is your time to shine, to talk about what you do.
Yeah. So I can be found at Carrie, Carrie, at ccrerouted.com. And I've taken a really slow approach about this because I want it to be meaningful and intentional about how I work and who I work with. And so, we were talking about this earlier about networking and just talking to people and seeing what their problems are and how to solve them. And so I have several different product lines that I can help with people to work with them on a project base, because for me personally, how I work best, and I think how we all work best, is we have a start and a finish of what we want to accomplish. And then when we figure out what we want to accomplish next, then we can have another time to do that. But I think that's the other thing that we're all struggling right now, is that goalpost keeps moving. And it's like we're on this treadmill that we just can't get off. And like, where is it? And where are we going? What is that end game? And we all work better when we know where that is.
Were we on that treadmill before and we just didn't know because the world was going along and then the world got put on timeout?
Yeah.
We were, but everybody was on it. Yeah. So there are people who got off willingly. That's why we talk about women who get off pursue motherhood, but the system keeps going, and so you lose out because you stay go home to take care of your family. But the whole world got shut down, and so it was just like that made people think like, did I really want to do that thing?
Yeah.
And so now we're back up. So you're saying people out there running 100 miles an hour now, and you're able to help them.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, we really all need to focus on how we can be most productive in a very changing, dynamic world. And how do we reach the people that we need to reach with? And also, for businesses, it's so important your communication internally and externally. So if you're going to make some changes, you've got to double down on that communications strategy part. And often that gets done separately from the overall business strategy instead of intertwining those two. And my approach is to bring them along together. It's just really important that you just keep communicating and understand why you're doing what you're doing, that you're going to give it a try. And if it doesn't work out, why it doesn't work out and how you pivot and how you change. But bring everybody along because everybody's at a different place. People are working in different ways. Some people are in the office. Some people are still, working from home or working from a co-working space. People have been working virtually, but we're not virtual. We just get together in a different platform, right? I mean, we're still human beings. And I think that's the most important part is we are still human beings. We are connecting in different ways. And that's why with Rerouted, it's really important to make sure that we're connecting authentically. And how do you figure out how to do that together so that you bring everybody along at the same rate?
We ask people who come to the program, we always talk about parenting during a pandemic. What are we gonna? There is a time that people who are born now and are coming of age that this is going to be a life-changing moment, that people didn't realize the pre 9/11 that you could go to the airport at 9 o'clock for a 9:15 flight, pay in cash and get on. And we never thought about those things. Let's talk about the whole idea of parenting during a pandemic and what you see and the people in your world talk about. How we're doing.
Yeah. So my children are 36 and 34, but obviously they're my husband's children. So I'm very blessed that we haven't had to deal with that too. But my sister, the one that's here, has two children that are in middle school and high school. They live in a townhouse. She's working at home. The two kids were going to school at home. And none of them wanted to be at home. They all wanted to be at school. Yes. They wanted to be at work. And so that was just a hard time. I mean, talking to my nephew and niece, they're like, put us outside in a desk. If it's cold, we'll put our jacket on. Like they really, really wanted to be together. But, I think we're all resilient people. And you talk about the airport thing. And I was going recently to a sporting event, I think when the training camp was here in town. And I thought for the moment, it's like, wait a minute. I've got to think about security. What pocketbook am I taking? And I haven't thought about that in a while. But do I have my mask?
There's a lot of things that we're dealing with now that we didn't do. First of all, my wife didn't leave the house for a year. And, we're out there, when it came time for the vaccine, I'm like, I'm first in line. Yeah. I'm going to get this thing because we're trying to get back. We didn't realize how much we want and need to interact with people. And we've talked about being family dynamics. You're one of
5, youngest of 5.
Yes. And I'm the oldest I was the only kid for almost 14 years. There's a different dynamic. So, all right, one of the great parts about having your own radio show is you can ask the questions. This is therapy session.
Yeah.
So you said that you've had to be the explainer for your husband because he doesn't come from the big family thing. Right. Talk to our listeners about what that conversation is. That's been my wife. People saying, "Hey, go talk to him and ask him, is he okay?" Because they wonder, are we the quiet ones okay?
Yeah. Well, it's we're all in these different places, and I think when my husband started working from home, I think he thought it was something that would be good, and then he quickly realized this is not good for me. I need the separation of space and to go to work. So I know I turn myself on to be that extrovert when I go to work and, be that business leader and do the things that I need to do for the team. and then come home. And the benefit of where we are at home is that our bedroom is on the first floor, so he could go upstairs, and we would call it going to work when he went upstairs. So finding that separate space. And I think he also was a pitcher, so I always talk about his pitching time, right? So time he needs to recharge and decompress from the day, and he could come downstairs and be back into, okay, I've left work, even though the commute was a lot shorter than driving downtown from Chesterfield.
It does, because, there are times when I'm done, I'm like, man, I should have got paid by the word, because it's not, it's not natural, but we all want and need, there's a natural attraction to, whether it's like even in business, you find people to be in a role, because you can't, as a business owner, as the business leader, you're not everything.
Right.
How do you, when you through the years of activation and now at Rerouted, how do you attract the best to come and roll with Carrie? Because now, before there's a difference. Before, people knew you as the lady who ran activation. You're still the same person, but now you're saying, hey, I'm doing my own thing. I don't have to worry about the big organization stuff. You see something now, you're able to do it. Talk about the attracting and recruiting of people to come with you, whether it's business people to work with you or clients.
Yeah, so I think, we talked about this before, but being authentic and being able to demonstrate to people, look, this is what I've been able to accomplish in the past. These are the problems I see that you're having. And this is how I can help you based on the situations that I've been in before, or based on where I see you need to go. And I think, it's having to have connections of personalities, but it's also putting somebody in a seat, and that's where I can sit, where I've been in a couple of different worlds. And so I have a much more holistic view of how the world works together, to bring that unique approach to the team. You always want to have somebody on your team that doesn't have the same skill sets, right? Not everybody's going to be the quarterback, whether you're and I love sports.
And so it's not, so your husband's the pitcher. And I remember they asked CC Sabathia, what was it about being a pitcher? He said, I stand on the mountain at Yankee Stadium. It don't start until I'm ready. Everything starts with me. And that's not on, so you as the leader on a team, you as whether it's the quarterback, if somebody's going to take a lot of the pressure, a lot of the responsibility to make it happen, and then you go and find the people to make, you go find the receiver, you go find the back, you find all of those things. Right? Mike King, what am I doing talking sports on ESPN?
Yeah, I know, ESPN.
Like, all of a sudden,
my favorite subject.
People are like, oh, you have a show on ESPN and you don't talk sports? Well, like, what do you talk about? Here I am talking to Carrie Roth. Okay, favorite sports team.
Oh,
baseball.
Baseball, Yankees.
Okay.
Right. That's because my husband's a big Yankees fan.
Okay.
Oh, and they just swept the Sox.
Okay, I'm from Philadelphia, so all right, so
it's not the city of brotherly love. I went to a baseball game there, and Barry
all right, everybody has the horror story about
and Barry Bonds. He's going after his record. Those fans did not cheer for a single player on their team. Barry Bonds comes up, we boo,
yes.
And the Phillies won the game, I think. I can't even remember. I was just like, there's no love in this city.
It's the city of brotherly love.
And at an Eagles Redskins game.
Now that's
at
ugly.
the Veterans Stadium.
Yes.
Oh my God, I couldn't even think Washington in my head without like a risk of my life.
Yes. Yes, we're petty like that. Yes, because we are working.
But I love the passion of it.
We're a working town. So my wife is from New York, so we say Philly. It's not a competition with New York. It's not. We're just trying to be better than Baltimore.
Yeah.
Because it's not that you don't have.
Right now, that's not hard to do.
Well,
the Ravens are good.
The Ravens are good, but we don't have the signature. I hear people who are from New England. They're like, that generation, they think they've always been great because what they do, they just keep winning shout out to Nanette Shore, her families, they just keep winning World Series. Kids work for the Red Sox and then they work for the Nats, and you're getting, we win something every so often because we're just a town, we're working. We don't have the glitz and glamour like in New York or the DC. But when you look at Washington football, it's like, okay, they won some Super Bowls. You get that. All right, basketball.
Well, really, Michigan. My go to basketball is really college for me.
Okay.
So,
Now, all right.
but you didn't let me talk about my favorite
What is-
player. My favorite player.
Okay, who's your favorite player?
Ooh, and this is controversial. Tom Brady.
Hey, you know what? I'm from Philly. I rock with Tom Brady. I'm not a Steelers fan, and a lot of the rest of the world hates on Tom Brady.
Yeah.
I'm not. Because, when you are the guy and they call him the GOAT, well,
Yeah.
you deliver when it counts.
Yeah.
A lot of great dynasties win one in a row.
Yeah.
My Eagles recently, we win the Super Bowl and everybody's gone.
Yeah. Fell apart.
It fell
But
apart.
Tom recruited everybody to come back.
And you know what I do? I tell people that's what I am. I'm the LeBron James of recruiting for this radio thing. You go get the best and brightest. Tom Brady, he looks out there and says, who doesn't want to go? Well, we can't retain the people after we win it all. He looks down the room and like, okay, we got our guys. Is this guy gives us the best chance to win?
Yeah.
And that's what business leaders are. How do you recruit and retain the best? Because people are always trying to cherry pick your team. Everyone has an ego. Everyone wants to go and be the big dog. But you know what? So here you are as the leader, massaging egos and finding people to come to you. So let's talk about what can people expect with Rerouted? How can people help you? What's going on out there for you guys?
Yeah, I think, I'm not building a scalable company. But I want to help others scale and get to that pathway quicker. Because there are a lot of challenges that happen with emerging technology companies just past their early stage when they're getting ready to become something big. And that's when you've got to retain that culture of why you started and move forward, because that's the greatest time when companies either succeed or fail.
So
It's
we're
5 to
talking
7
about
years.
out of the incubator phase where, okay, we had an idea. There's something there.
Yeah.
There's something there.
You got some stickiness.
Right. And all of a sudden, so that's the point where you're working at right there, because you say that's the point where you could either take off or it not work.
Yep.
What do you say, that 5 to 7 year?
Yeah. Yep.
How do you know when do people get the idea that it's working, that's going to work?
Well, obviously, if you're keep acquiring customers at a good clip, and you got revenue that comes along with it, and that people are really bought into the idea. If you're solving a real problem, and that's why you should start a company, because you're going to solve a problem, not come with a solution for looking for a problem, you have a better opportunity for success.
All righty. Mike King, Carrie Roth, this here one last time. How can people find you?
Carrie at ccrerouted.com.
All right. On the mic, Mike, like thank Carrie for coming in. We are running over a little bit. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks now. Take care.